I just want to respond to a lot of what Secretary Noem has just testified to. And gentlemen, I have some comments that I hope you'll take back to the Secretary and to the Department. If there's anything that is clear about what is going on in this country, is that the rhetoric and fear that is happening is at an all-time escalated high, and we're all describing different aspects of it. Fear of law enforcement, fear of citizens, fear of people who are legally in this country, because it's the rhetoric that is happening from the very top that is being decimated down level, and that is really, really dangerous. And one of the things that the Secretary said was she is restoring the rule of law. That is absolutely not true, because the rule of law is founded on two fundamental principles: that if you are going to be subject to a criminal arrest in this country, that there is probable cause to do so. You can't just snatch somebody walking into a coffee shop because of the color of their skin.
The pattern has become impossible to ignore. Moments that demand empathy, restraint, and gravity instead trigger responses centered on ego, grievance, and spectacle. The discussion opens with raw frustration over what critics describe as Donald Trump's self-focused and erratic reactions to serious national and global events. Instead of acknowledging loss, responsibility, or shared concern, his statements often redirect attention back to personal grievances or political scorekeeping. For many observers, this behavior is not just a stylistic flaw, but a leadership failure. They argue that presidents are expected to steady the nation in moments of tension, not inflame it, and that Trump's rhetoric consistently falls short of that standard. This criticism is framed not as partisan reflex, but as a call for accountability rooted in basic expectations of public service, empathy, and respect for the weight of the office. As that frustration builds, attention quickly turns to the people surrounding Trump and the potential consequences they may face. Early in the conversation, there is speculation that certain senior allies, often mentioned is Kristi Noem, among others, could eventually be forced out through resignation, dismissal, or even impeachment-level scrutiny. The idea is not that these outcomes are inevitable, but that mounting controversy and political pressure tend to flow downhill, especially when officials are seen as defending or enabling behavior that many voters view as extreme or reckless. This speculation reflects a broader belief that loyalty to Trump increasingly carries legal and political risk, and that those risks may eventually outweigh the benefits of standing by him. Central to the entire discussion is the existence of a formal impeachment resolution that already sits on the books. House Resolution 353, introduced in April 2025, outlines 7 articles of impeachment against Trump. While it has not moved forward procedurally, its presence is significant. The resolution is currently lodged in the House Judiciary Committee, effectively dormant but not dismissed. So, what makes this framing especially striking is Trump's own acknowledgement of the risk. According to the discussion, Trump has privately, and at times publicly, told Republican allies that if they lose the House, he will be impeached. This admission is notable because it reframes the election in stark terms. Rather than focusing solely on policy or party loyalty, Trump appears to be telling supporters that maintaining Republican control is the only thing standing between him and a historic third impeachment. Critics argue that this transforms the midterms into a personal shield rather than a debate about governance, reinforcing concerns that Trump views political power primarily as protection from consequences. The 7 articles of impeachment outlined in the resolution are broad in scope and severe in tone. They include accusations of obstruction of justice, alleging that Trump interfered with investigations and defied lawful oversight. Another article charges him with usurping Congress's spending authority, suggesting that he redirected or withheld funds without legal justification. Abuse of trade and war powers is also cited, focusing on unilateral actions that allegedly bypassed congressional approval. Additional articles accuse Trump of violating First Amendment rights, making unlawful appointments, engaging in bribery and corruption, and exercising power in a manner described as tyrannical. Supporters of the resolution argue that these charges reflect patterns of conduct rather than isolated incidents. Backing these accusations, proponents claim there is extensive supporting evidence. They point to court rulings that have already rebuked Trump-era actions, documented decisions made by the administration, testimony from former officials, and Trump's own public statements. The argument is that impeachment, if pursued, would not rely on speculation or partisan interpretation, but on an evidentiary record built from official sources. This framing is designed to counter the narrative that impeachment is inherently political theater. Instead, supporters present it as a constitutional mechanism triggered by documented misconduct. Beyond Capitol Hill, grassroots pressure is steadily building. A petition campaign calling for Trump's impeachment has reportedly gathered close to 100,000 signatures. While petitions do not carry legal force, they are often used as signals of organized public sentiment. Activists involved in the campaign argue that this level of engagement demonstrates readiness among voters to demand accountability if Democrats regain power. They also suggest that such pressure could influence how aggressively Democratic leaders move if given control of the House, reducing hesitation or internal debate about whether impeachment is politically risky. All of these threads come together in the final and most consequential theme: the 2026 midterm elections as a choice between accountability and protection. The discussion frames the election outcome as determinative of whether Trump remains insulated by partisan control or faces formal scrutiny through impeachment. It emphasizes that impeachment would not be guaranteed even with a House flip, but that the option would finally be real rather than theoretical. In this framing, voters are not simply choosing representatives, they are deciding whether constitutional checks will be activated or suspended. The broader message extends beyond Trump himself. At its core, the debate is about whether democratic institutions can still function when political loyalty collides with evidence of misconduct. Supporters of impeachment argue that allowing any president to avoid accountability because of party control sets a dangerous precedent. Opponents counter that repeated impeachment efforts risk normalizing political retaliation. The discussion does not resolve this tension but underscores its importance, portraying the coming years as a defining test of American governance. Taken as a whole, the conversation paints a picture of a presidency surrounded by unresolved questions, prepared legal challenges, and an electorate approaching a decisive crossroads. The impeachment resolution exists. The evidence, supporters argue, is already compiled. The only missing ingredient is political power. Whether that power shifts will determine not only Trump's fate, but how future presidents understand the limits of their authority. If you want to stay informed as this story develops and more deep dives like this continue, hit the subscribe button for future uploads.